welcome to the Week in Advance. How you doing tonight, Christopher?
Really great. How are things there in La La Land, David?
Very la-la-ly. Just going with the motions, going with the flow, living life, just enjoying life, too.
That's wonderful. And I see you're wearing a new trinket there, so is that in association with the advance of Mercury into Gemini, getting a little glam to wear?
Maybe one thing about Geminis is they love their trinkets. They like to get their hands on things. They like to put their hands in a bunch of jewelry, and they like the way that it's shiny too. This actually is kind of cool. I got this today. It's a wheel with all the astrology signs on it. So
nice. So kind of additionally validating your career in the interpretation of the movements of the heavens, and that's kind of nice.
It is. I love to rock it. There needs to be more astrology apparel out there, and that's been one of my dreams. Eventually, when everything gets into motion correctly, there'll be a lot of cool T-shirts that I make, Leo King astrology shirts for each sign. That's what I've been planning for a couple years.
That should be really good. Actually, on what is it, Zazzle, I have all 12 astrological signs. I created images for them a few years back, and if people stop by my Facebook page, I'll go ahead and load those up again, because you can get them either as a mug, as a mouse pad, as a card. So yeah,
I have your mug. I have your mug.
Yeah, did you get it, or did someone give it to you for
Karen Thompson gave it to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that mug actually, or that image for Leo, I thought was pretty rocking. That all three of the fire signs that I did were pretty intense.
Yeah, I mean, super bright. The mug is just like it totally is very Leo. So, yeah, and actually, you and I are recording this as the moon is leaving Leo right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we got a really nice week coming up here, especially there's some big transits happening. We've got well, let's start I guess with the weekend that we're coming into first. In my view, I think this Sun opposition to Saturn is a big one that's coming up this weekend.
Well, I think it has a potential to definitely solidify the work that people are doing as far as inner transformation, because Saturn is a crystallizing kind of planet. You look at the planet itself, and there's a big orb, and there are the rings around it. And those rings kind of confine the planet. They keep it from expanding even further. And within that, you get that idea that Saturn demands that everything be very finely honed, very finely detailed. And I think since Saturn has been doing this retrograde dance in Scorpio, it's going deep within. It's asking us to refine all of those hidden areas, all of those, old animosities, that poison that we carry with us when we have bad feelings about others, when we carry animosity towards others. So that stinger of Scorpio and that refining edge of Saturn are both highlighted right now as the Sun opposes it and throws a power burst in that direction. So I think over the weekend, it's a good weekend to call up people that you still haven't forgiven and say, I want to clear the deck here. I want to get rid of this old bond of animosity, anger, hatred, whatever.
Yeah, it's I think very important, as Saturn, like you said, has all those characteristics, and it's very opposite of the Sun. The Sun and Saturn are very different. The Sun is the hottest, and Saturn's the coldest. But I think it's important to have both these aspects, because when you bring them together, there's a lot of things that we're trying to lift off in Taurus, whether it's manifesting or creating something or just living in a better life. And Saturn is teaching in Scorpio that there are some things to get to the bottom of, whether it's animosity like you described, maybe it's just your truth, maybe you need to step more into your truth, Maybe there's some sort of deeper emotional feeling, whether it's something you haven't unveiled yet, because Saturn likes to unveil things. It's wanting to see things. It's wanting to bring them up to the surface. And I think this weekend we face a lot. We face, what do we need to bring up to the surface? I think it's so important to start looking at this so we can manifest the best life. And this is important as well because we're going to have a full moon coming up this week, which will be, right, a full moon in Scorpio, the sun in Taurus. And it's almost like it's a pre-full moon kind of happening with the Sun-Saturn opposition as, you know, maybe what is it that we can connect with deeper and emotionally, because we need to have that for Taurus to work right. One thing about all the signs is the reason why we have both halves of the signs is when they work together, you get the best of the energy. And when Scorpio and Taurus work together, when you have the emotions bridged with the enrichment of your values and what you're going to create in reality physically, you can create anything and receive anything you want in your life. And I think it's important for us to start to look in these areas now this weekend is, what is it we want to receive? What is it that we're wanting to build? And can we be honest with ourselves and facing the energy of how these two areas need to work together?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, as we initiate this coming week, on Friday we have the moon dancing around in Virgo, so it'll be in a nice position of being enshrined to the sun in Taurus. And then as the moon continues to accelerate over the weekend, it'll be galloping across good old Libra there and having, you know, that little magic interaction with Mars. It'll be setting off some fireworks with Uranus and Venus, and that really is going to kind of energize the weekend for people, I think, because we have Mars in opposition to Venus and Mars in opposition to Uranus. Venus will be in conjunction, moving into that conjunction with Uranus, and the moon will be the first part of next week firing off all that energy. So it's going to be interesting to see what relationships show up over the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, because my experience has been that whenever Venus is in the spin, it highlights relationships and how you perceive others. And when we have a Moon-Venus conjunction, it's very loving, very, you know, open-hearted, open-handed. But when we have a moon in opposition to Venus, you tend to look at the flaws in people all of a sudden. You become somewhat judgmental. It brings out that kind of edginess. And so with these other very powerful players, with Mars in the spin, Uranus in the spin, it could be one of those weekends where you actually do look at your partner and say, damn, you know, shave, get a haircut, do something. So it's going to be, you know, a weekend of being a little bit picky, and of course with Venus, with Mercury and Gemini, people are going to voice their opinions.
Well, what a weekend. Two huge oppositions, Mars and Venus, Saturn and the Sun. So we have the hot and cold energy, then we have Mars and Venus, the masculine and feminine opposing, on top of Mercury squaring Neptune this weekend. So this weekend could be, I'll be honest, it could be a little confusing, trying to sort out the facts, the details, and more importantly, what is divine, what is not divine, what is guided, what is not. You know, what is your intuition saying? What's your logical mind trying to figure all this out? This could be one of those really dynamic weekends, like you say. Like it'll be interesting to see what happens in relationships. It could be some really hot and some really cold energy happening. This could be some big directions taken and some ones taken in other directions, as the Sun and Saturn are going to bring up a lot of decisions, I think, because the Sun opposing Saturn. You know, we can't go build without Saturn, that big decision maker, that big worker, that big planner, saying, well, what are we going to do? Like Saturn wants to bring that earthly energy, even though it's in Scorpio, it wants to bring an earthly energy into the paradigm of commitments. You know, Scorpio to me is where you commit. And here then is Mars opposing the moon, or Mars opposing Venus, while the moon triggers it all. So we're going to be emotional about this area of what actions to take. Mars is retrograde, not moving much. And that judgment energy you talked about even is, I think, tenfold in Libra, right? So this could be us really doing some really powerful stuff. I'll be honest, I think that what you talk about, get a shave or get a haircut or put some pants on, could actually just be a trigger point, which could go into much deeper aspects that could blow your mind, especially when Mercury is squaring Neptune. I think we need to learn to be compassionate in what we say and not forget about that, because Neptune and Pisces is going to remind Mercury and Gemini, like, don't forget about compassion. Don't forget about maybe letting go of some things or going with the flow. But Mercury's not going to want that. It's going to be scanning the surface. It's going to see a lot of the facts. It's going to want to let it out. It's going to want to say something, especially as Mercury trines the moon. Oh, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of things said this weekend. And especially because we're coming out of a huge cardinal cross and big eclipses. And, you know, we've been through so much. Maybe it's finally at this point where we start to figure out what this all has been meaning and what we need to do about it.
That's exactly right. And one of the things that I find kind of calming after we've been going through all this turmoil and these tumultuous situations with these squares and crosses that have been going on with these very, very slow-moving outer planets, you know, we look to the inner planets, Mars, Mercury, Venus, the moon, and the Earth. You also have to look at the Earth in your own personal chart, which is on the opposite side of the sun. And you get a sense of the temporary, ephemeral nature of life, day-to-day change. There's always transition. And we're really going to see that change continue to, what's the word for it, to become more visceral. I think that now that these heavy, heavy aspects are breaking up, the slow planets are releasing this death grip that they had on each other. Now we're going to see a much lighter kind of vibration going on in society. We're going to see more of a playful energy. And, you know, this is hitting at exactly the right time of year in association with, you know, the advance of spring with flowers in bloom, that sort of thing. And of course, it's that time of year when a lot of animals are rutting. So there is that, you know, that old theme of love being in the air. So this could be a big weekend for young lovers and old lovers and people who haven't been lovers for a long time, but find somebody new entering into their lives.
Very, very great look at that, especially because Venus does start to come close to Uranus this weekend. It starts to square Pluto. So it's almost setting us up for something too. Like this could also be the setup where maybe you don't agree on a relationship, but maybe that makeout starts to put you in that new position of, wow, look at where this can go. And I think the part of the lesson this weekend is to learn to find some sort of balance, because the moon will be through Libra. We're going to also have all this energy as like, you know, there's all these kind of intense actions happening. So finding your balance, I think, is important. And I think like maintaining also some sort of allowing to go with the flow, I think is important, as well as Mercury does square Neptune this weekend. And so, you know, to try and make sense of everything might actually be a little difficult, even though, or we could be misguided. I always think Mercury square Neptune is like completely off the mark with what you're logically thinking. Like, so be careful though too, because I think we need to watch our actions this weekend. We need to watch what we say, you know, on the negative end. The positive end is, man, this can take you in a Disneyland kind of feeling.
It absolutely can. And, you know, as it continues to intensify, like you said, we've got that square going on between Mercury and Neptune. And, you know, my experience has been when you have those kind of edgy energies, especially with Neptune in the spin, I tend to pay attention to what's going on around me, because I have noticed that that Neptunian energy is bringing things from the void, bringing things from that veiled region. And so you may be hearing some sort of personal truth, something that you can apply to yourself in a profoundly personal way, being uttered by somebody that you wouldn't expect to say these things to you, or you know, would normally not overhear these things being said, like with somebody across the room who's, you know, at a dinner party or something. And so it does have a serendipitous nature to it, and it does have a very deep intensity. And if you are willing to be receptive to the idea that some deeper truth is ready to arrive in the the arena of your life, then this is an ideal weekend to experience that.
I brought up in the horoscopes, it's like stop putting perfume on like a dead energy, like in covering up the stench. Like I think that's what Saturn and Scorpio is trying to bring to this Taurus energy is, there's some sort of truth that might be so hidden in places that we might want to be beautifying so much, And I think you're right. This weekend is a turning point in many directions for many areas in relationships, many areas in our personal life of what we're creating and manifesting as. The truth's there. It could be a nice shock to our system because as we advance in the week, we're getting ready for a big full moon, which is going to be highlighting more of this truth. So I think it was really good that you brought that up again, because I think that really, if we look at this full moon coming up here on Wednesday night, it's because most of this week, I mean, it's kind of a nice week, but I think it all is leading towards Wednesday. When this full moon hits, this one's going to be a big one because it's going to be near Saturn, where there's some sort of serious emotion to this truth as the sun in Taurus wants to manifest and wants to build this great life, but we got to really be doing the work. And I think that the moon highlights this in this full moon. On top of that, Venus is on Uranus squaring Pluto and actually kind of starting its square to Mars, just coming off an opposition to, off the opposition to Mars. I mean, this is really about manifesting and the truth. And it's funny with relationships, even though the weekend can bring some exciting things, I think the full moon can kind of hammer things out really intensely because Venus is in the middle of all this crazy energy. Wild things can happen, big pressures on commitments as Pluto squares Venus. There's a lot turning this week. It's definitely not going to be a boring week.
Very, very true. And whenever we have a full moon, we have the two elements at extremis. So you've got the sun and the moon at the most separate points during a 28-day cycle. And looking at that with the Earth positioned in between, that really is a reflection of how we are experiencing this activity in the heavens. This is going to be a full moon where we are really very conscious of the fact that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind have this gulf in between them. And we are surviving in that gulf. We are participating in the greater life around us in that gulf. So it's almost like being at the Grand Canyon, and at the bottom of the canyon in many ways, with the extreme sides very, very clearly defined around you. And Scorpio full moon is always, from what I have observed, most of the astrologers, most of the pundits who follow the activities of the heavenly bodies really look at this particular full moon as being the most intense of all the full moons, because you do have that grindingly heavy, massive attachment to the physical reality in Taurus, and then you have that extreme purging, because if you look at Scorpio, it's ruled by Pluto, and you've got that Plutonian energy, and then having Saturn in there is again an energy that is very forceful and very demanding. It's a taskmaster. So yeah, this full moon is going to be a full moon where you can get huge realizations about your own dualistic nature, and then be able to start working on reconciliation, pulling things back together so that that inner harmony starts to have the effect on your outer world, and then you're able to see outer harmony start to arrive. So this could be a very big pivotal point for a lot of people, realizing, oh, I've been doing this for years, and now I can see it's very self-defeating. Why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah, because it's going to unveil it all, and maybe it might be difficult. The full moon's on Saturn, So it's gonna really pull on Saturn really hard too. And Saturn is in retrograde, where it's covering where we were, especially around the holidays, which is kind of interesting. This is where Saturn was around the holidays, 19 degrees, kind of coming backwards here. So there's a lot of energy that we're in review, and whether we're making the right commitments in our life, the right connections, the right deeper things. And that's the one kind of difficult aspect of an opposition is, you got to look at this other side. And in Taurus, we want to have the greatest energy. But Scorpio, it's going to always bring up something that shows maybe why it is or why it isn't. And maybe it's not easy to see the truth sometimes. The truth is very raw in Scorpio. But the positive is, once you see it and you know it, it's nothing but up from there. And I think that this is a place where it comes nothing but up from here after this full moon, because Mars comes direct within pretty much almost a week after this full moon. The astrology just starts to really open up really nicely in our futures. So I think we've been through a lot, and this is that culmination point of really a great place for awareness, like you brought up, of what we're manifesting right and wrong, what we need to do in our relationships. I think this is one of the last big major relationship transits that we're going to see for a little bit here. Because I think Venus coming on Uranus this week is going to really shock things, shocking things, powerful things. And with all these oppositions and trigger points happening, this could be some really powerful things that, could really blow us away. I think that some of this is going to catch a lot of people off guard, what's coming.
Well, and there's going to be a real strong healing aspect to this full moon also, which is very interesting because we've got Jupiter in Cancer in exact trine to Chiron in Pisces. But on the greater scale, we've got this grand trine going on by sign, because we've got the intensity of Jupiter in Cancer pulling the energy of Neptune and Chiron in Pisces and depositing it in the moon and Saturn in Scorpio. So, a trine does open up a lot of possibilities for accessing areas and for regions that we haven't been able to access within ourselves or within the prevailing environment that we're participating in. So this definitely is the type of energy that is edgy, demanding. It can really clarify things for you, but most importantly, on the deepest level, it can heal you.
Yeah, there's a lot of healings, and part of Chiron in Pisces is to make sure you learn to go with the flow, that you learn to trust with spirit, and more importantly, that you can listen to the signs. That maybe the signs have been trying to be very clear. I said in my horoscopes this week that Chiron in Pisces with this trine to Jupiter is making sure that you're okay with the hand that the universe has given you. One thing about Chiron in Pisces is to accept that the river flows us into certain directions for a reason, and to allow those reasons to happen. Maybe you've been trying to control things so much that finally it reaches a place where it's like, okay, I need to quit this because my control is definitely not bringing me in the right placements. Because Taurus, Scorpio, very fixed signs and energy, really demanding as well, very intense. And also, even though that all the cardinal signs aren't very, hold on to it, they're very pushy, like let's get things going. So there's a lot of pushy energy around. There's a lot of let's get it energy around. Not much mutable energy, except Mercury and Neptune, which kind of maybe make everything really confusing. And I think a lot of questions. And the kicker of everything that's happening this week is Mars is stuck waiting to go direct at a very slow and stop position in Libra, already a sign that weighs it out. So the actions we take and the courage to go through it all and so forth could really be frustrating. It could get a little weird. And then the follow through, I think, with certain things might be more difficult than usual with that Mars kind of stationary direction, Well,
I think that this is going to ultimately kick off a lot of people who have been thinking about and talking about either doing a blog or writing a book or starting to do videos like we're doing. because with Mercury, the great communicator, in its natural home in Gemini and trying to Mars in Libra, we're going to get a surge of that energy of inspiration, and we're going to really want to start making it happen, arriving at a point where we're actually, sitting down at the keyboard and pulling up an idea, creating a vision, and then posting it somewhere on the internet to share it. So I think a lot of people are going to start to feel that desire to exercise that creative muscle. And then when we do watch Mars turn around and start to advance, that's when we're really going to see, the implementation of this energy. So if you've been thinking about doing something with communication on a larger scale, this is a time to put the seeds into the ground. This is a time to start, pulling up reference points that you can work with, because this is a very powerful time for creative energy.
Yeah, that's what all the energy around, especially Venus on Uranus. I mean, epiphany central, crazy powerful things, shocks out of nowhere in our creative energies, and also defining in what we want. And I think that this week, even though there's so much happening, and honestly, I mean, you and I could probably sit here and do a 2-hour show on this week. I'll be honest. That's how much stuff's going on. I think the main lesson of this week really is, like, are you really living in your truth? Are you really manifesting from the best place possible? What are the deeper emotional commitments that you need to pull up? More importantly, though, what are the things you need to face? Maybe there's some sort of new actions you need to take in relationships. Maybe there's some sort of new action you need to take in creating the values that you want, stepping more into this creativity, asking the questions, looking deeper into things, maybe even getting lost a little bit to kind of help us be found. That's how Pisces works. It works through unconscious and conscious waves. And Mercury is flying fast. I mean, as you and I record this on Wednesday the 7th, it's at 0 degrees Gemini. By the time the full moon hits, it's already at 11 degrees, almost going up all the way to 15. Like, it almost goes through all of Gemini in a week. I mean, this is Mercury at its fastest position, especially in Gemini. It's at its fastest. A lot of questions and a lot of conversations are going to happen this week, more than usual. More than usual. And that might sound crazy because it feels like maybe you've already had so many. This is really nudging those conversations to be had with all this energy coming. And really, it's Mercury, probably the most powerful planet of the week, and the moon, which are going to be our emotions, which are going to be our mind. These two planets, I think, are really powerful. And these engage into lots of conversations. These engage into a lot of feelings. These engage into deeper conversations that we might have been afraid to have been talking about, because that's one thing about Taurus. It doesn't want to ruin the nice picnic. Like, Taurus does not want to ruin the picnic. I'll tell her I'm going to break up with her once the sun goes down and we're in the car. That's Taurus energy. It doesn't want to ruin the moment with, oh, well, it smells so good and she looks so beautiful right now. I don't want to tell her right now. So that kind of could be a good way to describe the energy that comes, is like we might have been waiting to the last second, and this is that moment when we can finally bring up the truth and bring everything up and face all the stuff we have to.
Yes, and blurt it out and hopefully have no regrets. But within the midst of all this magical spin, I had a friend who dropped by over the weekend. We went out for lunch, and he brought me back a trinket from Israel, from Jerusalem, and this is a hummus. Now, this is something that I appreciate having received, because this full moon coming up on Wednesday is something where you want to have a hummus around, just to protect you from the evil eye. So, having said that, in a tongue-in-cheek fashion, because the evil eye really is nothing to worry about, I suppose we should take a look at the cards.
Yeah, and I'll show you what I keep. I keep a lion with me at all times. So.
Oh. Well, and you've got the other lion sleeping over on the couch, I assume, where he usually is perched.
I do, and so that's what I keep around with me. But your trinket, I think, is amazing. It's so beautiful. It's so funny. You and I both got new trinkets in the same week. I mean, that's how connected you and I are. Yeah,
there's definitely a synchronistic rhythm going on here, and I like the fact that yours is from a shaman who is a practitioner of the elemental arts, which is very cool.
Yeah, an African shaman too, and yeah, I've got these cool new bands. You know, turquoise. This looks blue, but it's turquoise. I've been wearing a lot of color, and especially in Africa, the males wear lots of bright colors, and I want to be wearing more bright colors. I manifest very well with bright energy.
That's cool. And that's very leonine. You know, my kid, the Leo, and my grandson, the Leo, they all have their, what's the word for it, their peacock moments when they need to spread their tail and show off all their colors. Well, we start off the weekend with the Eight of Cups, which is not so much a prevailing mood as just the universe reminding us that as we move more in the direction of this coming full moon, we want to really be able to release the past. So this is a big weekend for looking very deeply into the things that you have attachments to, deciding what is worthy and what is not worthy, and then discarding that which is unworthy of your attention and your energy. So as you begin the weekend, you definitely want to pull the plug on, you know, a lot of that old habitual stuff that's been hanging around for a while. Then, as Saturday, Sunday, and Monday arrive, we have the Ace of Cups, and this is, you know, all that loving energy we were talking about, the potential for an intense realization that you are loved and that you are, you know, in love with others, and that's that Venus-Uranus interaction. So it can be a very rewarding weekend emotionally for everybody, according to, you know, your own temperament. You have to be willing to open your heart and open your consciousness. We start off next week with a lot of activity. We have the Five of Rods, and I would associate this with that accelerated energy as Mercury continues to progress into Gemini. You may find that communication speeds up. You may find that, you know, if you haven't paid the parking tickets, they may show up and tow your car. It's that kind of energy where, you know, things are really, really speeding up, and communication is a key to being able to handle it. This full moon, as we arrive at Wednesday, has immense potential. We have the Star card. And once again, as I usually reiterate, as the Disney character Jiminy Cricket said, when you wish upon a star. The potential is immense with this full moon. It's going to be one of the strongest full moons of the year. And I think that it can leave us in a very transcendental state of consciousness. We can take that, you know, huge step to a higher plateau. We can experience a different level of, you know, enrichment, fulfillment, and then, you know, when we finally finish off the journey, we have the Moon card. And I think this full moon is going to bring a lot of realizations to the surface. You may not notice them until Thursday, Friday, Saturday of next week, but it is one of those full moons that is very bright, and it's going to penetrate very deeply into those darkened areas within your own consciousness, the Scorpio regions where Saturn resides. So very interesting week, a very exciting week with a lot of potential for deep healing, profound healing.
Wow, that Eight of Cups, lots to leave, and those are those oppositions, just, you know, facing things. When you face things, you realize, gosh, I need to walk in a new direction now. And a lot of powerful cards. I mean, Ace of Cups really, I think, is a rejuvenation like you talk about, but powerful major arcana. The Star card coming in, the last card you just pulled. I mean, there's a lot of the Moon. I mean, there's a lot of energy that's brewing this week. And I think we need to go with wherever it goes. I think that's what Neptune and Pisces teaches. Like, well, if it just goes down that road, maybe you shouldn't trip out so much. This is also Chiron and Pisces. I have to do this to a lot of people lately in more of my friend world. Like, there's a reason why these things are happening in your life. So trust that they're happening for a reason instead of trying to grip. And I love how you brought up Jiminy Cricket. You know, Pinocchio is one of my favorite Disney movies because Geppetto is out there making these real boy, trying to make a real boy. And I think we all need to, with Taurus and Scorpio, make things real and not fake, you know? And that's what this is Jiminy Cricket kind of leads the way towards all you have to do is wish upon that star, you know, and maybe you need to trust that the universe is doing weird things to get you there, but are you allowing it to happen? Are you facing the truth, and are you gonna accept that truth?
Yes, and are you going to recognize that your consciousness over the last 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 5 incarnations, who knows how long, your consciousness is what has created the conditions that you're surrounded by. And as you begin to refine and redirect your consciousness, you can definitely alter the environment you inhabit. And that's, you know, the underlying lessons that the heavenly bodies are trying to impart to us, is that realization that none of this is just happening randomly. We are not victims of life. We are, in fact, the creators of the life we experience. And once we step up and take command of our consciousness, command of our thoughts, then we create the life that we desire.
Yeah, there's so much where we need to take control, and we need to take that power back. And that's what Scorpio and Taurus is about. It's about power. You know, when you have money in your pocket, you feel powerful. When you're connected with your truth and you're in it, you feel powerful. When you have somebody invest in you, you feel powerful. And that power comes from connecting with those energies correctly. And I've been talking a lot about swag too in my horoscopes. You know, your inner swag needs to find a way to come in. And this is that full moon that finds out how to do that.
Very, very true. And the Leo King is going to, the Leo Prince is going to go find his own swag.
Yeah, he is. He is. He's got a lot of swag to follow off of, though, from his daddy. So, but yeah. So what an interesting week. You know, there's some part of me that still feels like, gosh, there's something missing in how to describe this week fully. And I'll be honest, but I think that's kind of part of it with Mercury square Neptune and all this stuff. Like, I think when we come out the other side of this, there's some stuff that we're not supposed to fully know. And I think that is what makes this exciting, is the unpredictability that kind of comes with this week.
Exactly. And also, you know, as people experience things, we always appreciate the feedback. So if you glide through this coming week and you feel like you really had the insights handed to you through our videos, leave a note on our YouTube channel so that we can observe how it is becoming a part of your personal life experience.
Yes, that'd be excellent. And, you know, thank you so much for watching us. And I look forward to speaking next week as we move into Gemini, actually. We're going to get ready for some Gemini energy and Mars coming direct.
Yes, well, for me, it's a big event because we have, you know, I am a 29-degree Taurus ascendant, so the big energizing shift into the Gemini energy is something I always embrace and look forward to.
Yes, and so do I, because I'm my moon's right there, 28 Taurus. So get to highlight my moon and get to highlight your ascendant, and really exciting times too. And I think the Gemini energy is going to be like extremely like a bang when Mars goes direct as well. So there's going to be a lot happening, and there's going to be a lot happening this week. But this stuff could really be setting us up in positions that we need to be in for when the big bang really comes in.
Exactly. Well, David, it was really fun having another discussion with you, and I'm looking forward to connecting a week from now so that we can review how we rode out this full moon adventure.
Same with me. It was great to talk to you again, and I'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Bye.
Bye.